Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the design for my log cabin. And I'm going to show you how it goes together, how easy this is to design, and how something like this can be used for year-round decorations and or simply pulled apart with easy slip together fitment and stored until the next holiday season. Stick around. So this design was a request from one of my patrons, but not this specific design. Jeff contacted me and said, hey, he would like to have, well, you know what, let's just look at the email. So he says, Steve, I want to know if it would be, if I want, excuse me, Steve, I know it should be easier than I'm making this out to be, but I'm wanting to make something or make some gingerbread houses out of 3 mil premium Baltic birch for my granddaughters that can be painted and assembled on their own. They are 7 and 10, so the assembly should not be an issue. Just need it to slip together so it can come apart at the end of the season. I tried using one of the lanterns as inspiration, but I'm just not figuring it out. Have you seen any designs that are similar that I can start with? Well, now that, and he even specifies he's looking to build gingerbread houses. And I started designing a gingerbread house, and I'm thinking, okay, to me, gingerbread houses are definitely seasonal designs. Something that would be used for a couple of weeks out of the year and maybe put away. So I said, instead of making the design a gingerbread house, I'm going to make it a log cabin that can be customized with additional pieces that could be interchangeable. So this could be used year-round or multi-seasonal. But I did like the idea of it being something that just slipped together that little hands could do, because I can recall as a child getting, several different projects and to assemble, from a little covered wagon that turned into a lamp, to all kinds of little arts and crafts things. I enjoyed those as a child, so I said, okay, well, we can do this. Make it, kind of simple to do for a child, but also even if it's just for your own personal use. It goes together really easy, and you can, take it down, put it away. And there are some tips and tricks that I'm going to discuss in this video that can make it even more so regarding the kerf and things like that. So let's jump into LightBurn and take a look at this design. So let's jump over to LightBurn and switch you over. So as is, the file is going to come with, I've got 2 Christmas decorations on here now that will come with the file, but they are just examples, and you can use them or you can create your own. These are not very difficult to do. I've got Frosty and Santa in here that have got slots that stand on either side of the front of the cabin. But you can create Easter bunnies, you can create, jack-o'-lanterns, you can create all kinds of different things that you can sit out here and place in front of the house. And where you put these slots is where you would have it displayed. Like the one I have with the Christmas tree, I moved Santa over here with Frosty and put a Christmas tree over here by itself. But these are the 2 side pieces, and they have slots in the bottom that interlock with these slots on the front and back sides of the house, so they just slide together. There are tabs on the bottom of each, the front and the back, that fit into this base plate, and gravity will hold it in place. That just helps keep everything square and locked together. Now the roof panels, I've got 2 eaves right here, or 2 side pieces, with slots in them, and your 2 roof panels here with tabs on them. Now, I found that in order for this to be, it's one of these situations where it's kind of tough to have your cake and eat it too. You can make this so that it goes together without glue, and friction will hold it together for the first 3 or 4 assemblies, and then even then it would be too loose. But if you make it tight enough that friction will hold it together, you run the chance of damaging it whenever you go to disassemble it, and it's making it really tough for little hands to put it together. So I opted not to make it super tight to put together. I left the kerf on this the same, and it goes together, but I actually glued the roof panels together. The 2 end pieces got glued to the 2 roof panels. So the roof is one solid triangular piece, but it's not attached to the cabin. It's just sitting on the cabin. So if you decided to use this year round with multi-seasonal decoration pieces, you can actually store them inside the house. Just lift the roof off, put in your pieces you're not using, pull out the pieces you won't, redecorate it, put your roof back on, ready to go. So I did glue those together, and then I did glue the windows onto the side of the house and the door on the front of the house. But this is such a simple piece to create. And like I said, the side panels interlock with the front and back panels, and they just slip together. In fact, let's see if I can pull this one off a display and show you how simple this is. Let's take Santa and Frosty. These are made so that you can interchange them. They're not glued in place. They're just sitting in slots. Just lift them out of their position. Same goes for the Christmas tree. Just lift them out. Oh, and then we'll pull it apart. Let's pull the whole tree up. Roots are getting deep. All right, and now that I've got that separated, I can actually, and I don't have the house glued to the base either, because if you wanted to take it down and store everything, there's no need for it to be glued, so that can lift off the base. And then the roof is, I want to pull the front and sides off. See, it's, empty there. It's a large void to use as storage. Oh, and the friction just let go. Now the roof, big wind. That's like, the piglet's house. Big bad wolf. The roof just comes off. Now, like I said, I've got this one glued up so that this stays together. But then that just fits right back down on top of there. And you can set that back into place. But let's take this, disassemble it even further. Blow the roof off again. All right, the roof's gone. And as far as these interlocking pieces, which way does it go? Can't tell by looking at it. I put it together, but I don't remember. Does that go up or down? That goes up. There we go. So those just slide apart. And I only put this together once, so it's still good and tight. There we go. But it's not so tight that, a 7-year-old couldn't put it together. But once you got that off there, you see there, you got the slots and the slots. And they just simply fit together, interlock in. Slide that down. It's hard to do in mid-air. It needs to be on the table. There we go. And the more that slid in and out, the slicker it'll get, the better it'll slide it together. Grab the roof. And the base has got the slots set in it, cut in it for the house, and where you might want to put the different figures. So you put the house in its foundation. You got tabs for it to line up and snap into place. I'm trying to do it without looking. There 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. House is in place. Put the roof on. And I modified the roof. In the file you'll download, it's one row of shingles is relieved or missing or gone because I did not like the finished result with this half shingle hanging out here at the very end. So this bottom row of shingles have been eliminated, and so it comes to a nice full shingle on the bottom row there. I like that a lot better. So the file you download will have a slightly different roof line, goes together the same way. And then you can put your figures in here for decoration. If it was what it was, those Easter, you can have, you know, a little bunny out there, or you could put, you know, a cross out there, whatever you want it to be. And then have different figures out there for St. Patty's Day or 4th of July, whatever you wanted it to be. And these little guys are so simple to create. And then you've got a decorated cabin. And let's jump in here at LightBurn and look how easy it is to create these figures. If you have artwork that you wanted to create a little figure like my Frosty here, you need to know if you're going to use the same existing slot, then you need to use the slot that's in the base as your template to attach to your figure. So let's jump over here, and I'm going to go into my art library, and we're going to get let's see here, where maybe it's under Christmas. No. Oh, it's under snow. I always get under snow. Yeah, there it is, snowman. So there's my figure I want to create to sit in my piece. Now right now is just some basic artwork. And let's put him in a fill mode. There, it makes him a little easier to see. And let's group him up, just make sure he is grouped. Okay, first thing I want to do is set my height. How tall do I want him to be? And I would, you know, compare it to the front of the house, or my door. I'll compare it to the door. And that doesn't actually look that bad. Looks like he could go through that doorway without any problem. He might be stand to be a little bit bigger even. Not much. But let's make him just a wee bit bigger. There you go. That looks good. Alright, now that I've got the size that I want for my snowman, I come over here and I'm going to do an offset. And I'm going to do a 2mm outer shapes only. Select the results. Do not delete the original. Leave that turned off. Do it round and say OK. Now put that on a cut path, and there you go. You've got a 2mm cut path around your figure you had. But now you need to add your tab to mount it to the base. So as I said, you want to be able to recreate these over here. They're grouped. I'm going to just duplicate that group and bring it over here. Ungroup it. Delete that one. Now this is mounted at an angle. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I figure out that? Well, we're going to rotate it so we can get its exact measurement so we know for sure. Or you could use your ruler. Come over here, and this is 3mm by 19.05. 3 by 19.05. We don't need to rotate it. We just use the ruler. But if you had something that was an odd shape, and for whatever reason you wanted to just get it down, and because there's always another way in LightBurn. So if you were to take and draw, or come up here to the top number or numbers and get a toolpath. Where are you at, toolpath? Right there. And I'm going to bring it down to right there at the corner of that piece. And now I'm going to select that piece and say Control 2, duplicate, or Control 2, and that'll give me my first anchor point by left clicking right there, and then come over here on this line and left click and hold it and rotate up until, and it doesn't matter where you do this line out here because this is just for alignment's sake. So I bring it there, and then that is now perfectly set up. I can delete that, center that, Alt Control V. Well, didn't do that. There. Alt Control V. Alt Shift V. Dummy. Not Alt Control, Alt Shift. Okay. So there, that lines that up, and that's the size I want, but I've got all this gap in there. Don't want that. So, and there it's not touching. There it's not touching. It didn't actually put it up there. So now I can take a look at this, and there are so many ways to do this. You could go into node editing, clean up all those curves, get rid of all that, and make it a straight line, a flat line, butt them up and weld it together, and then you don't have to resize anything. Everything's good and golden. Or you can do this. If you know that it needs to be 3 millimeters in height, and we're not going to do anything to change the width, but if I take that and I move this, oops, too far, hold my shift button and arrow it up, and I want to bring this up where I'm fully encompassing the base of the snowman, getting rid of all those curves. Now I can hold shift and select the outer cutout that I just did on the offset and weld that together. But that's no longer 3 millimeters. So what? Go into Tools, Resize, Slots and Selection, and I need to, this was 3 mil, but it's not now because we made it so much smaller, and I need it to be 3 mil, but I have no idea what that is because I didn't measure it in advance. That's okay. I'll just keep increasing my tolerance until I pick it up. Oh, I got to set the tab height, stupid. There we go. Didn't have that right. So let's put that back down to 0 so you can see. I selected my tab height. Old material is 3, new material is 3. This isn't 3, but if I just keep increasing that tolerance, once I get within that tolerance, there it goes. It highlights and say, there we go. Say OK. And now if I measure that, I've got a 3 millimeter tab sticking out of the bottom of Frosty that will fit into that slot. There's always another way, and sometimes we overcomplicate things when, you know, and I'm even guilty of it. Before I would, and sometimes I still do it. I get caught up in the design process. I'll like, okay, I gotta get this just right and this just perfect so I can weld these together and it's exactly what I want it to be because this is what I want it to be. You ain't got to do all that. Just overlap them, weld them together, and then set your tab and slot size with the Resize Slots and Selection tool. Easy peasy. But that quickly you can create different figures that will sit in the existing slots that you have in your base, or you can have multiple bases so you can have a different orientation for different scenes. And come on, I'm trying to do this from a seated position, can't see the slot. There we go. This is simple, easy to do, easy to recreate if you wanted to do it yourself. No slots and tabs to assemble the cabin, they just slip together. The roof does have slots and tabs for the corner pieces. And I did find it necessary to glue that together and stay together. Now, I told you I'd talk about the kerf. When I cut this piece out to make sure that it would fit together easily so small fingers could assemble it without problems, I added 0 kerf. I just let the laser do its job. if you're going to make this for yourself and you want it to go together and just stay together, you want it to be a good tight fit, you don't plan to disassemble it, then you might add outward kerf to your cut layers so that it makes it tighter to assemble. But the corners, the angle pieces for the roof, these guys with the inner slots for the roof panels to stick into, I would not do kerf on those, because when you add kerf to these enclosed corners, it adds kerf on all four sides, and that might make it a little bit too tight. So just doing what you would do there was you would select those and put those on a different layer with your cut settings. Come on, there we go, and no kerf added to it. But if you're going to do it for children to assemble, and these are so easy to do, you could even, if you got grandkids coming over and you've got 2 or 3 youngins that's going to be in there and you want to keep them busy for a good hour or so, then cut out 2 or 3 of these. And I'll put a link to these in the description of the video, and it'll also be on the website for the download of the file. These are my paint marker pens. They are water-based, non-toxic, extra fine point, 24 colors, and I use these instead of using paint. They're a whole lot less messy, a whole lot more options right here at your fingertips, literally. And the kids could, color them and then assemble them as neat, and each one would be their own individual piece that they could take with them. Send them home with your kids and let it all be your kids' problems after what to do with them after the fact. So this design is available on hobowithwood.com. I'll have a link to. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about how you resize the material in these. I did this in the Christmas tree video, but in fact, it's crucial you understand how this works so you don't mess up the design when you get it. So back over to LightBurn. So if we look at these pieces, right now when you select that whole thing, you get all of that. But in fact, we need to talk about the black layer too. If I ungroup that, you could then grab those, and you can move them around. They're not attached to the design. And that's so that you can resize those slots with your material without any design problems. With this as it is, you could just go ahead and subtract them out and it would still work. But depending on what you did to your design, you could possibly interrupt that or keep it from being edited correctly. So they are not attached to the design as is. And when you select your piece and you say, I want to resize my slots and tabs, well, you've got slots here and you got tabs at the bottom. And if you're making it all out of the same material, you simply go to Tools, Resize Slots and Selection, and we're going to change it from 3 millimeters to 4.5 millimeters. And you're changing your slot width. Well, there's your slots, and there's your tabs. You would select one, click Apply, select the other, click Apply, and it change. Now I would do each of the panels as you cut them out and come down here and do these the same way and just change your size of your materials. There are a lot of people who aren't going to get this far in the video or watch the video at all, and they're going to have problems with the way I have this file set up, because I've done some things with the engraving to cut down on the amount of time the laser is being used considerably. And what I've got the lines, and because even from here you can see the lines for the logs, to differentiate each log one from the other. But they are not in fill mode. They are simply that. They are lines. But I wanted them to be significant enough to show up from this far away, but not be forever under the laser just doing a simple line. So, all your diode lasers vary slightly in the spot size. The lasers I'm working with have an advertised spot size of around a 0.08, give or take, which is pretty average. They're going to be very close to that in most of your smaller diodes. So instead of doing a 0.08 engraving where it's a solid feel, I do two lines that are 0.08 away from each other. So when it does the first line, it's going to be about 0.08. Then it's going to jump up and do the second line, which is about a 0.08. And they are going to overlap each other simply because of the spot size of the laser. But it's just zip, zip when bidirectional, engraving, and it's done quickly. Versus doing the equivalent size in a fill mode. And let's take a look at that, because this is a big time saver, and this is something you can use in a lot of your design applications. So if we look at the front and back of the cabin, there are a total of 14 objects here. There's 14 lines. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 solid lines if they were solid. And I've recreated these lines over here, and I've created a solid piece instead of lines of equivalent appearance. And I'm trying not to get things too confusing, but if I take and look here real close, you can see there are two individual lines here. And if I measure the distance between this line and this line, it's 0.08 millimeters. So if my spot size of my laser, say okay, and it's not round, it is elliptical, but if we're just going to say, for argument's sake, we're going to say it's 0.08 millimeter diameter. Put it in the line mode. We're going to bring it down here and put it right there on the line. That's how it would be. Control D, duplicate that, and let's move it up here to the next, to the other line. There we go. And now we look at that total size, it's 0.16 millimeters. Because if the laser beam is going to go right down through there and right down through there, and it's got a 0.08 spot size, that's going to be the actual result. It's going to be about a 0.16. So let's get rid of these guys. Come back over here. And I need to change this one to a 0.16 in height. Oops, I had aspect ratio locked. Let's undo that. Unlock. The height is 0.16. There we go. So now this, when we measure it, have I got too many lines in here? Yep, I got too many lines in there. We got to fix that. Let's look at this. Measure from here to here. Doesn't even show up. So let's select this one and delete that. Measure from here. Sorry about that. There we go. There's 0.08. Those are 0.08 apart, just like the sides of the cabin. They're 0.08 apart. And when I look at this and look at the preview, it's telling me 4 seconds to engrave that line. 4 seconds. If I look at this one, which should be equivalent, it's 30 seconds. 30 seconds. There are 14 pairs of those lines. So I would have, calculator, 14 pairs at 4 seconds. 14 pairs times 4 seconds. That's less than a minute to engrave all of those logs on there in line mode. Since these are solid, I don't have 14 pairs, I just have 7 individual pieces, and those are 30 seconds each. So 7 times 30, 210 seconds divided by 60, it's 3.5 minutes versus 56 seconds. 3.5 minutes versus a minute. So 3.5 times longer by doing it in fill mode, 7 individual fills versus 14 lines that will end up burning the exact same result. So something to think about when you're doing your design pieces, if you're needing to create just simple lines instead of doing offsets and creating a fill mode to create real little thin lines. This would save you a whole lot of time, and like I said, so many people are not going to get this far in the video or watch the video, and this is a huge time saver. And I used it for all the roof as well, because that roof panel would take forever if it was in fill mode, but in line mode it's just pop, 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 done really, really quick. So there are some things here that we discussed that will help you with all of your design work, not just this particular creation. But jump over to hobowithwood.com and you'll have this file available to download. In the description in hobowithwood.com will be a link to the pens, the paint pens. These are very useful and very handy and very easy to clean up. They are, like I said, water-based, and you don't have to worry about kids accidentally marking on something that you can't clean up real easily. Hobowithwood.com. Look for this file. I have the link to the file in the description. I'll have the link to the pins in the description, but they're also in the description of the item on hobowithwood.com. I am Steve, Hobo with Wood, and I'm out.